Hi, this is Miss Feldman Tentori, and this is the preparatory screencast for the Branding Trends minor for the preparation for the class on the 8th of April. So as promised, I'm doing a screencast so that you can prepare before the workshop. I'll keep it nice and light. There's a fair bit of information, but it's fairly easy information. I'm sure a lot of you will understand it, but it will get you ready for what we're going to do in the workshop on Friday. So this is a short online lecture that you can listen to, and then there's the one on the 8th of April that we will have, and then the 22nd of April. So the 8th of April will be analysing and creating content, and then the next one will be sharing and measuring content. So this screencast will go through a digital trends overview. We'll look at why we're going to focus on the top trend of content. We'll look at how brands are using content, the types of content, and the platforms that they're using. And then on the workshop on Friday, we'll go into more depth. So to get into it, the digital trends in 2015, there were 20 trends according to Forbes. Now I'll put the link to this article on and you can have a look, but they have a lot more detail in the link. You can go and take a look, but they're talking about things like big data and big insights, cloud-based everything, omni-channel customer-centric focus. And what they mean by that is omni-channel is lots of different channels. So one example of that is, for example, KLM Airlines are using now things like Twitter and Facebook for their customer service, and the customer-centric means that they're really focusing on customers now and customers' needs. Digital currency, things like Bitcoin. There's wearable technology coming out. So the Apple Watch launched in 2015. There's drones. There's some really cool stuff happening with drones and filming, recording all different types of videos and everything. There's 3D printing. There was a really neat exhibition late last year in the library, the Hague Central Library. This is a photo from that. The Gemeente Museum in The Hague also have quite a few examples, but 3D printing is pretty amazing. There's also the Internet of Things you'll be hearing about, social commerce, crowdfunding is becoming really popular, so platforms like Kickstarter. The sharing economy, so a lot of business models are really being flipped. So have a look at the link for the rest, including a really interesting 20th. See what you think of that one. But now it's no longer 2015, it's 2016, and we're into April no less. Today is the 1st of April that I'm recording this for you. And things move fast. So usually in academic research, you're encouraged to go to the library and look at things like journal articles. But the problem is that digital trends move so fast that by the time these things get written and published, things change. So I wanted to know in class, come and tell me. This is one very short, very quick, easy thing for you to do. I'd like you to write down and have a look for where you would find trends. And what are yours? What are you interested in? So some of you are already doing possibly digital trends for your essays. This article here is 10 digital trends every digital marketer should know about. And I've simply found that by typing in good old Google. That's one of the easiest ways just to find trends. But sometimes you have to do a bit more searching and kind of click through to links, or find what they call the market leaders or thought leaders in the different industries. So for digital marketing and digital trends, the Next Web is one. They have great articles every day. I personally quite enjoy looking at Social Media Examiner, and Mashable is another one in the tech field. So have a little surf around and see if you can find who you think is a market leader in digital trends and what are some of the really interesting digital trends that you get excited about. So I'd like to hear that in class on Friday. Also, this photo was actually taken last night. I was very fortunate yesterday to go to TEDx Binnenhof, which was amazing. I got to sit in the beautiful 13th century Ridderzaal in the Knights Hall in The Hague. And I loved the combination of the history, but being surrounded by new stuff and new technology. This picture was actually not taken in the Rizal. This is the Hofvijver. There's a temporary structure on the lake there opposite the Moritz house. And this guy was giving demonstrations of the virtual reality, and he was showing how it's being used in the medical field and training doctors and health professionals. So I actually was looking inside at cancer cells being formed and DNA strands being constructed. It was absolutely amazing. Very mind-blowing. And these things are being on the consumer market now. That's a Samsung phone and just clicked in. And even though I'd heard about it until last night, I didn't actually have the experience of looking around and experience this virtual reality. So very, very exciting developments, and I'm wondering what's going to happen the rest of this year and over the next few years. But what we will focus on in the next 2 workshops is digital content. There are so many trends out there, and it's really exciting, but digital content is something that spans all of it. It doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to convey. Being able to analyze and understand and create your own digital content will really put you ahead of your field, particularly in the branding minor field. You guys are interested in working in this, so this is things that you really should know. So why is it so important? It is an absolute necessity, digital content, for big brands, startups, not-for-profits, government, individuals, so really anybody. It levels the playing field. So if you're looking at a big stadium like this, in the past, the only people that were out there playing the game were the big brands. So people like the Cokes and the Apples, they were the only ones that really had the money and the understanding to create digital content when things were quite new and big brands. Now, anybody that knows this stuff can create digital content and essentially compete with the big brands if you know what you're doing. So anybody that wants to play the game can now get out of the seats and get onto the playing field. So that's what I'd like to teach you how to do. It gives you a voice that can be heard. The online space and the digital marketing space is really busy and noisy, as people call it. But if you don't know these skills, you can't even take part in the conversations, and you certainly can't get attention. So if you learn these things that we're going to go through in the workshops, it's giving you a voice that can be heard, and then you get to decide what you want to do with that voice. So let's have a look at how brands use content. Now, all of these links I'm going to put in a separate document so you can click through, but they use them to sell. This ad that you can take a look at on YouTube is a very old ad, and you'll see it's actually quite funny how companies used to be able to tell people anything. People would believe it and buy the product. So content was used to sell. It's also used to change behavior. This is quite an interesting campaign that was put together. I'll let you go and have a look at, but it's really trying to encourage people to do things differently. And good content can do that. It can really change the way you think about things. But rather than just selling and changing behavior, brands need to also do these 4 things now. This comes from Jeff Buller's blog, What are the 4 Key Goals in Content Marketing? And this is becoming like a pretty common catchphrase in this industry now. You need to inform, inspire, educate, and entertain. Preferably all 4 if you can, but choosing 1 or 2 or mixing them up is what you need to do to get attention online. So this one is to inform. This is one example of last year in October, the Nuon Solar team from the Netherlands went and competed in my home country in Australia, and they seemed to do very well at winning. But this is just an informative post on Facebook. So they're just telling people, the Embassy of the Netherlands in Australia, I've actually been doing some consulting work with them recently, and they use their page. They're busy growing their Facebook page at the moment. And in fact, an IBMS intern is in there at the moment. I am supervising Fabian there. and he's working on creating content to inform people that are interested. So this is an example of how to use digital content to inform. This one, so a very interesting picture there, but the Tutu project, storytelling in social media and digital content is another trend. Looking at telling a whole story. So this story, this video, I'll put the link up for, it's talking about Bob and what he did when his wife Linda was diagnosed with breast cancer. But have a look at which brand is behind this and how much actual focus is on the brand and how much is on the storytelling. And this is an example of using using digital content to inspire. This one is to educate. So Maggie here are teaching you how to slim a prei åse. So how to cut we call them links in English. And again, it's a brand attaching themselves to digital content, but they're teaching you how to do something. They're educating you. And entertain, this one is pure entertainment. There's no brand behind it, but it shows how something like this has had 22.5 million views when I took this screenshot last year. It's probably had even more now. So this is also showing you how just people and individuals can compete with the big brands when creating content. So just to go back, so the 5 things, if I can go back here, to sell. Number 1, to change behavior. Number 2, to inform, to inspire, and to educate and to entertain. 6 things, not 5. So they're the things that digital content does. Something to consider as well, particularly this relates back to the IMC that you did in second year. Is it an ad or is it content? So go and take a look at this infographic that when you click on that link, in the links that I'll give you, it will give you a big long one. I've split it into a few different slides here, but have a read through. Is content marketing a rival for advertising? So I'd like to know your thoughts on that after you look through this infographic. Even infographics in themselves are a great way of sharing content. So the different types of content now we'll look at. There are billions of pieces of content out there, but we can break it down into certain types, and there's not very many of them. And you'll start learning to analyze the content that you see every day. So the first one is video. This is a recent one with the new Prime Minister of Canada. This was doing the rounds on AJ Plus last year. And even AJ Plus, that's a very interesting platform themselves. They've really grown in the last maybe 6 months. So have a little look at the video, but video is becoming huge. And there's some estimates that all content on that we're consuming each day will be about 75% video in a few years. I would say at the moment I'm probably consuming 20 to 30% video a day. It'd be interesting to hear from you in the class as well. Of all the content you look at each day, how much of it is video? The second one, images, so just simple images. That looks like a very simple picture with some words on it, but the thought and the time the brand would have put into creating that image is huge. And when you learn to look at these kind of things and the story behind them, what are they trying to convey? I'd like to hear from you on Friday what you think this Heineken ad is connecting to. Welcome to the Future. This was released last year in about October, November. What are they trying to connect to there? I'd be interested to hear if anyone knows. Number 3 is audio. Podcast is becoming very, very popular. So just speaking, just voice. There are video podcasts as well, but podcasts and audio. Text, so just simple like this tweet from The Australian, just simple text is another way to share content. And one of my favorites and what you're seeing more and more now is a combination. So mixing up text, infographics, videos, so a combination of those different things. But those are the building blocks. Those 5 are the building blocks of the types of content. So all of the content you're consuming is either a video, image, audio, text, or a combination. Let's look at the platforms. There's a lot of different platforms out there where you can share digital content. Facebook is one that all of us should know by now. When I started my social media business about 7 years ago, I used to have to explain a lot about Facebook, but now it's something that everybody knows. Twitter, I really quite like using Twitter, and it's got a different audience often than Facebook. There's some crossover, but it's another platform that I think is an essential that people know the basics of. YouTube, because video marketing is very powerful. There are other video hosting platforms as well, like Vimeo. Google Plus hasn't taken off as they would have liked it to, but Google can't be ignored. Google's huge, and there are some possibilities for platforms to be sharing digital content there as well. LinkedIn for business networking, and LinkedIn have started in the last couple of years expanding the type of content that they share, because at first it really was just an online CV, but now you'll see news feeds there, you'll see people sharing articles, images, videos, and using it to share things to build their brand there as well. There's email marketing. So all of you would now be receiving a e-newsletter regularly, a student e-newsletter, which I've been involved in helping create and get out there. And Mad Mimi is just one of those platforms. For the student one, we're using one called MailChimp at the moment. Mad Mimi we're using for the IBMS staff. But email marketing, even though not everybody reads their emails these days, it's still a really good platform to consider sharing and spreading digital content. There's websites and blogs. So in e-business, you would have created a WordPress website. Blogs are very popular and big business as well. I was speaking to a couple of ladies yesterday that have set up a network working with brands and bloggers, because a lot of brands now realize that bloggers have a big influence. So they want to work with them and have their products out there on blogs. There is also other platforms, of course, like Wix, Weebly, and many more. Getting visual platforms like Pinterest. And there's many others. So let's talk about in class on Friday what other platforms you're using. I know Snapchat is very popular, and I'd love to hear what other platforms and apps you're using to share and consume content. So behind everything, looking at the purpose. Brands should always have a plan with what they're doing with their content. So start thinking about, when you're looking at the content coming through your newsfeed on Facebook or Snapchat or whatever you're using, start thinking about what is the plan that the brand has here. Individuals, what is their motivation for sharing? Why are they sharing this piece of content, and what's it doing for them? And just to finish up, the ways that we consume content, it's changed so much and become so much of our daily life now that it almost goes without saying. But mobile and the smartphones that all of us own now, this is a really new trend. This was not happening just a few years ago. So businesses and brands have to adapt their marketing strategies very quickly, because only a few years ago, a lot of them were focusing on print and all the things we've gone through in IMC. There's a lot of other options, but now there's a big shift to mobile. So that's the end of the screencast lecture for today, and that's the preparatory homework and assignment for you. So thanks for watching, but having watched that now, you're coming into class now a lot more prepared and ready to get stuck into the next part that we'll talk about, which is the analyzing content. And then you'll get to create some yourself. So I'll see you on Friday. I'll put all the links up that were in this lecture so that you can go and click through and do a bit of reading. I've asked you a few questions in this, so I hope you've taken notes, and we'll talk about it on Friday. So I'll see you then.